DFCRadio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on DFCRadio.com. This is your host, Emily, and today is July 1st. We are already halfway through the year. Seems kind of crazy. We are in full swing of summer. We had the summer solstice a few weeks ago. July seems to be the kickoff for the summer. We have the 4th of July this weekend. It is also Canada Day today. So for our lovely friends up north, they also have a big holiday, and it's the National Day of Canada, celebrating the anniversary of July 1st, 1867, the enactment of the British North America Act. And it's now called the Constitution Act 1867. And this united the 3 colonies into a single country called Canada within the British Empire. So they have a day celebrating that. Today is Canada Day. I am hoping it's like the U.S. and takes bank holidays and everyone gets a day off. I hope. And then we also have on Friday is the 4th of July. Obviously, it is the 4th of July everywhere, but it is also Independence Day for us. And July 4th is the day the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Continental Congress. It's a federal holiday. Most people have the day off. We declared our independence from the United Kingdom July 4th, 1776. And as everyone seems to know, Independence Day is commonly associated with fireworks, parades, barbecues, picnics, family reunions, baseball games, all kinds of fun summer activities. It is the kickoff for family and summer events. And growing up, well, let me backtrack a little bit. I live in California now, obviously, because I talk about it pretty often. We are in a drought, so I understand why we cannot have fireworks, even though we have not been able to have fireworks forever. I grew up in Washington State. We have quite a bit more water up there, and I grew up in a family that loved fireworks. We lived close to 5 or 6 Indian reservations. They could sell on the reservation fireworks all year round, and you could get the good stuff. I also have a dad who considered a half a stick of dynamite an awesome firework, and he used to piss my mom off. I'll put it that way. My parents actually still live on the property and house that they built in the 70s out of railroad ties and an old barn that was it was built in the 1800s, and they tore it down and they built a pretty hippie house that has been remodeled quite a few times. It's not quite so hippie anymore, but you can still see the railroad ties going through the middle of it. It's funky and cool. But I grew up in this property. It's kind of a hobby farm, quite a few acres. We had a few acre garden, but we had a huge lawn. And clearing out the property, we had old stumps or old trees that had been fallen, rotted, that I remember one time we were little, one of our friends fell in one of them when we were playing, and we had to get my dad and a rope to get one of my friends out. So these are big stumps. And my mom would plant plants around them, trees, hostas, they look beautiful on the property. But come the 4th of July, my dad would always feel the need to blow a little bit of something up from my mom's yard. And she would get so mad sometimes, especially when my dad decided, what happens if we put it in the pond that I decided to make? And all this water goes everywhere. So 4th of July was always a fun holiday. Always a reminder to be safe and sane. I have had fireworks go off in my hands, blisters on my hands. It's not fun. Yeah, it was fun. I'll admit that it was fun. I do not promote the improper use of fireworks. But it's come a long way in the last even 15 years. Even in our early 20s, you could still buy Roman candles. The things that we can do today is, I think in California we can have, nothing can shoot up in the air. We can have, like snakes and sparklers and stuff like that, but nothing too dangerous. Before growing up, I remember having Roman candle wars, lighting off bottle rockets in our hands, all kinds of bad stuff. But 4th of July is always a really fun holiday, and I'll put this as my PSA too, is remember to have a safe and sane holiday. For 10 years ago, so July 3rd, 2004, I was in a drunk driving accident with my best friend, and we were both drinking, and she was driving, and unfortunately, she passed away in the accident, and she died in front of me. And 10 years later, I mean, obviously, I still miss her, and I still reflect back onto it, but it's not worth it. Young and dumb, and it's not worth it. So if you're going to drink and have a fun holiday, there's lots of cabs, there's lots of people to call for rides. I know that I always offer a ride for my friends on the 4th of July or New Year's or things like that. So remember to have a safe and sane holiday. 4th of July is on a Friday, so it's going to be a fun 3-day weekend. I know that I am headed off to San Francisco to spend the day with my nieces and nephews and brothers and sister-in-law, and it should be a fun one. And I'm trying to think the last time my two brothers and I have been together in the same room, and I think we have a picture from, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. So it's been a little bit. So remember, safe and sane holiday. I hope everyone has a great 4th of July, had a great Canada Day, especially because your day is halfway over. And have a fun month, because it's summer. We are in full swing with summer. So today I will be talking with Dray Perkins, my friend who lives in Youngstown, Ohio. And he's been on the show a few times, and he's talked about Dewey Misters and talked about many other things. He's a great gardener, he's a good gardener and into all kinds of different stuff. But we are talking about the Youngstown Food Forest, and they're in the running for a garden grant from Gardens of Good, and the voting ends July 6th. So you will see a post on A Girl in a Garden Facebook page. If you are interested in voting, you can vote once per day. It requires your email address. Nothing too hard, but they are up for a grant, and they are trying to continue with the food forest they are building in Ohio. And there's quite a few steps that go into this project, because there is some damaged soil there that needs some bioremediation. So we'll be talking about that. Remember to get out there and vote and help our other community members out there. We always can do that. And it is promoting free food. If you have not heard of a food forest before, I believe Seattle opened up the first one. I think it was last month. But they opened one of the free food forests, one of the first ones. And they're planting all kinds of plants in there, perennials, things that will return. And one of the really important thing is fruit trees that won't produce fruit for 2 to 3 years sometimes after planting. But if you think of how long that it's going to remain in the ground and be able to give us fruit for years and years to come. So we're talking long-term access to fruits and vegetables, which kind of brings us into the same thing that I've been working on, is a 2014 garden pledge, with donating some of the excess fruits and vegetables that you grow in your garden that you aren't able to eat all at once. Donate it to your local food banks or neighbors in need. Food banks do accept fresh fruits and vegetable donations. If you are not sure of one in your area, you can check out ampleharvest.org. They have some great information out there. So without other people helping our community members and rallying the troops to be able to plant some of these food forests and getting some of the donations. So Youngstown, Ohio has planted, I believe, 100 fruit trees already this year. And this is a momentum that's going forward. This one's in Ohio. There's been one in Seattle. We have people like Ron Finley and his group that works on giving gardens to community members in need. So there's a lot of people working on these projects, and it's about food. It's about local food. It's about access to food. People don't need to go hungry, and people do not need to live off of fast food. It's your choice if you want to, but there are some better options out there, and I would hate to have someone have to be choosing the only food available because there's no fruits or vegetables available for purchase within 5 or 6 miles, and they're living in a food desert. So we want to get that food out there. These are what food forests are, and they are going to be spreading, and I hope that I won't be able to say, oh, well, there's 2 of them starting. No, there's hundreds of them all over. So it's a momentum. It's moving. It's going forward. This is a thing that many people are working on, and it's gardening, it's food, it's fresh food, it's real food. And today I'm also visiting our carnivorous plant bog up in Oregon, and it's pretty darn amazing to see these plants up close and personal. I love growing carnivorous plants. They're beautiful, they're amazing, but seeing them in the wild is something completely different. So check that out. And then without our sponsors, A Girl in a Garden would not be able to have a weekly show. So before we hear a word from our sponsors, remember to check on the left-hand side of the screen. There's clickable links to all of the sponsors. We have Indigrow, Age Old Organics, Smart Pots, Green Grow, True Liberty Bags, Safer Brand, and Rocket Plasma. If you're interested in advertising or being a guest on A Girl in a Garden, please send me an email, agirlinagarden@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. I'm always looking to talk about urban gardening, different gardening projects that are out there, techniques of planting, quick tips, all kinds of great information. So now we're going to have a word from our sponsors and get rolling on the Youngstown Food Forest Project. And hear some of these different gardening ideas and the grant that they're in the running for or trying to get. So get those votes out there.
We're listening to EFCRadio.com.
A Girl in a Garden quick tip. Extra coffee can be frozen in ice cube trays and used to cool off coffee without watering it down. For more information, tune in to A Girl in a Garden at 5 p.m. on Tuesdays on dfcradio.com.
The popularity of indoor gardening is growing at an amazing rate. Whether you're just starting out or you've been growing commercially for a few seasons, Safer Brand offers a complete line of organic pest and disease control products and educational resources that you can use to help your plants reach their full potential. Safer Brand insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides are listed by the Organic Materials Review Institute and are perfect for all your indoor and outdoor growing needs. Whether it's hydroponics or soil, these organic products will help you grow healthy plants that yield amazing results. For over 20 years, Safer Brand has offered a large selection of naturally effective products at competitive prices, yet this is only the beginning. Be sure to watch for an exciting new line of products cropping up later on this year. Look for Safer Brand products at your local garden center or grow store, or get exclusive offers by shopping online at saferbrand.com/hydroponics. It's organic, it's effective, it's Safer Brand.
Hey, Duffman, did you hear about Mills?
No, what's up?
It pays the bills.
That's what's up.
millsnutrients.com.
A Girl in a Garden quick tip. Bees only become aggressive if their hive is being threatened.
Many gardeners enjoy tending their garden while bees hover nearby.
Here at Green Grow, we take organic gardening seriously. With our mycorrhizae products, you'll increase growth and help reduce the need to replace old, worn-out soil. We help provide electrolytes and maximize nutrient intake to make your indoor garden lush and green. So give your plants the strength that they need and breathe life into your soil with Green Grow. Find us at your local nursery or visit us at thegreengrow.com. That's thegreen.com.
A Girl in a Garden quick tip. To keep hungry insects and slugs away from your cucumbers and vegetables, mix strips of aluminum foil in with your garden mulch. As a bonus benefit, the foil will reflect light back up onto your plants. For more tips and information, tune into A Girl in a Garden, 5 p.m. Tuesdays on dfcradio.com.
Try the biological approach to plant management and soil fertility that puts life back into the soil with age-old organics, naturally based nutrients that feed both the soil and the plant. Age-old has been part of the organic gardening movement for over 20 years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember.
And offers a wide variety of products from fast-acting liquid nutrients to slow-release granular dry blends. With over 20 different products, Age-Old has something for every indoor or outdoor soil-based gardener. From Age-Old Liquid Grow for vigorous early plant growth to Liquid Bloom for more abundant flower and fruit formation. Our dry formulas are specifically designed to build and sustain the beneficial microorganism population in the soil by using the highest quality organic ingredients, including mycorrhiza.
That's a good thing to have. That's a good thing to have.
Incorporating age-old products into your fertilization program helps provide larger yields while still being environmentally safe. Visit your local indoor-outdoor garden store or garden center today for more information, or simply visit www.ageoldorganics.com. Age-Old Organics, let's get growing naturally.
You're listening to A Girl in the Garden on dfcradio.com.
dfcradio.com.
Welcome to A Girl in a Garden on dfcradio.com. This is your host, Emily. And today I am talking with one of our friends online, and he has joined me on the show before, and I am talking about Dray. How are you doing today?
I'm never better. How are you today, Emily?
I am doing fantastic. Now,
Great.
one of the great things about technology, we're going to talk about gardening, but we're going to talk about technology for 1 second. We are, obviously, you're listening to the podcast on DFC Radio, so you can be sitting anywhere around the world listening. And I sit at my home in Santa Rosa doing a podcast, and I'm talking with Dray. And Dray, where are you sitting?
I'm sitting in a basement in Youngstown, Ohio. YOhio.
So there's where you are, the listener. Dray's in Youngstown, Ohio. I'm in Santa Rosa, California. And want to know what we all have in common? Gardening. So we're going to talk a little bit about gardening. But I always say technology is so freaking awesome because we can talk to people all over the country, the world, everywhere. We can all have stuff in common and we can all relate to it. Technology is good sometimes. So we are talking gardening. So what's going on, or I guess I should say, what is growing on in Youngstown, Ohio?
Holy cow, what is not growing on in YOhio? They have all kinds of things popping off. You know, I just relocated to the area maybe for full time about 2 months ago. So I'm still learning a lot of it myself. But We've got maybe 5 or 6 community gardens. I don't even know how many urban farms, and a few nonprofits that are doing some really super cool projects of just getting free food to the community. So there's just all kinds of things going on here.
All kinds of stuff. And this is popping up in cities all over North America. Food forests is being one of them. I believe Seattle opened up one of the first food forests in the country. And that was a while ago, and people are flocking to it. Now, you're wanting to work on this food forest theme, though. Is this correct?
Yeah, I do think that Seattle was one of the pioneer cities, and I've been fortunate enough to collaborate with a group through the Youngstown Inner City Garden. They are the ones that started building in the foundation for the Youngstown Food Forest, which is it's a free food forest to anybody that can make it there and pick up produce. All you do is just come and pick. And within time, or over time, I should say, we're going to make sure that it's accessible for everybody in the community. Wheelchair accessible, everybody's welcome at this free food forest. So it's a super cool project. We've got a lot of things going on.
And who is going to be working on this project for this free food?
Anybody that can come to tender the garden is more than welcome. We are collaborating with a group of permaculturists, vermiculturists. We have some sponsors and some partners from the Max Yield shows that have been gracious enough to donate some resources and materials. Other than that, just about every organization that's in the community is in on it. They've got all kinds of gardening societies that I can't even think of how many are out there right now. More than a dozen, more than probably 2 dozen.
Now, in the Midwest, and we live in this beautiful gardening area in California. You don't really think about some of the manufacturing and other things that happen throughout the United States. And it seems like Youngstown, Ohio has a lot of manufacturing that happens. It's kind of stopped. I mean, they're rebuilding the town in some cases with these gardens and with these people are going out there. But is there anything in the soil that's going on?
Yeah, well, exactly. Back decades ago, this area and areas near it were big into the steel industry, so they had that kind of manufacturing going on, which, as you mentioned, has led to contaminants and toxins and things like that being left over in the soil. So we do have some challenges that we're facing, but people are actually coming together, pulling out all of their resources and educating each other on responsible ways to garden. And it is taking shape, whether it be in an abandoned lot or what used to be, a warehouse or a vacant property that just got reduced to rubble and then filled in. These things are popping up everywhere, whether people have to container garden on top of them. I'm a big fan of aeroponic gardening. People are finding solutions one way or another to get food and make sure that it's local.
And container gardening is probably a great option, especially right now, as some of the soil has had some contamination with it. As the soil becomes remediated, container gardening is a great way to go for right now.
Right. We're looking to be about 3 to 5 years before we can actually put, root crops into the earth in some of these spaces. Now, mind you, not all of them are that contaminated or even unplantable, but there are some that do have that challenge. So, it's kind of a balancing act, what you can work with now and what you can repair, and then what you can grow on top of that soil while you repair it.
And this is, as we look at this big picture and more of us get into urban gardening, growing food locally, we're using some of these spaces that become available. And these spaces have been used for many, many years for many things. And sometimes we have no idea what's been on there. Or it's a concrete plot that's already on there. So you got to work with what you got as you're improving it for a while. So container gardening, aeroponic gardening, hydroponic gardening, NFT tubes, just all of these different ways and technologies that you can take in there and do urban gardening with is going to improve it. But it takes a little bit of do it yourself. You have to agree with that one, correct?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of innovation, a lot of thinking on your feet, a lot of troubleshooting on the way through. And, definitely doing it yourself.
And normally you'll sit down at these projects and go, all right, how are we going to do this one? And you have to think it out because you have to think outside of the box. In the box is crops and rows in the soil, right? Is that what you'd say?
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, when I think of row crops, when you think of the Midwest, row crops is their popular crop for growing that aren't going to be in urban areas, and it is fields that are in beautiful rows, and it's the same crop over and over.
Just straight lines, man.
Monoculture, baby.
Yeah.
Over and over. So now we want to talk about urban gardening, and you were bringing in, obviously, there's the good parts of urban gardening, which is revitalizing the neighborhoods, getting people to know each other, food, or in your case, free food, which is even better. But it's bringing all of this stuff together and finding these new ways to farm and garden and connect with our community that's outside of our traditional row crop gardening outside the city.
Yeah, it's super awesome. One of the other things that it does is it kind of helps regenerate the local economy. You know, people aren't really going to these big box stores, and they're not wasting money on gas for, to get food and things like that. So, there's those really good little side effects that come from urban or community gardening.
Oh, yeah. And I say I'll get all my stuff to the community garden, and I know soil's a little bit cheaper at some of those big box places, and it might not be the brand I want. Budget might be a constraint. And I start working. I'm like, all right, I think it's time to go to the compost pile and see how much we can get out of there for free.
Yeah, nothing beats free, and doing it yourself, like, nothing beats that.
And then you start helping. All right, it's time to make that compost pile for the garden and get other people involved and teach a little bit about composting. And all of a sudden you have new amazing soil, mix it with some worm castings, and you have some great soil for next year.
Don't you know it? Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic with how things are progressing. We do have a couple, like I mentioned, 3 to 5 year plans, but I think we're going to meet our goals way ahead of schedule, just based off of the talent and, again, the resources that are being offered and available. But yeah.
Now, what are some of these goals?
Some of the goals would be to turn a vacant lot that used to have maybe an abandoned building or a condemned building on top of it. We want to turn that into an actual production facility. Probably emphasize a lot on vertical gardening and vertical hydro, things like that. So that's one of the goals there. My main goal is just I want to make sure that all the soil and all the water is free of lead contaminants. That's my focus.
Well, that's not a big goal at all.
No, I should be able to knock that out.
Sarcasm here if you can't hear it.
Yeah, we should be able to knock that out, no problem.
We'll do that one tomorrow. What's next? Right. No. Yeah. Long-term goal.
Right. Well, worms and mushrooms and all the remediation methods that we have really make that not as arduous as a task as what it seems. So
no, but there are steps that are in this process, and it's not an overnight thing that happens.
Absolutely. And we're super fortunate, YSU, the university here in town, they have all of the resources that we could think of whenever it comes to research and connections and things of that nature. So that's super great. They've been a big help. And then again, we just have lots of super experienced people around the area that are coming together just because they realize that it needs to be done. They're not sitting around waiting for someone to do it. They're just actually just doing it.
So for our listeners out there, bioremediation is a way that you're actually cleaning up the soil with it. That's the easy layman's terms for bioremediation. Let me say that 5 times fast, but bioremediation. So it's actually cleaning it up, taking some of these contaminants out. There's many ways that it can be done, but you were just saying mushrooms is one of them. And all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank. But there's many different things that can go into it, and there is a kind of waiting zone or waiting time because there are steps that go in the process. What are some of these other ones that we can use for bioremediation? Do you know a few other ones off the top of your head?
Well, vermiculture, I'm a big worm guy, so dumping 10,000 worms into an area that's got some contaminants in it, depending on the level of toxicity, as long as the worms can survive and break that down and process it, within about 3 years, they reduce it back to somewhat of a potable area.
And you get these amazing worm castings from the worms. It's breaking down these contaminants in the soil.
Yeah, usually they're full of nitrogen, which is great, super great. And then the worms themselves will also aerate and help moisten your soil. So, that's just an all-around thing that you'd want in any garden, but it comes in super handy with contaminated areas.
And this is a greener way. Obviously we don't want to use chemicals, but
right.
There's there's this process to go through, and you're like, what's the greenest way possible? And a lot of people are like, let's just dig it out and dump this somewhere and lay down new soil. Is that the best way to... It seems like that's the cheapest way that people think in their head of, how do we get this fixed?
It's the quickest, convenient way. I wouldn't say it's the best way. It's definitely
No, not the best way.
definitely not a sustainable solution. Definitely not a long-term solution. Anybody that gets into permaculture and seeing how some plant varieties and trees interact with the soils around them, and how the biological, did I say that right? The microbes, how they interact as well. You stand a much better chance having a sustainable solution at that rate than just covering it with a quick fix or a Band-Aid.
No, and those quick fixes, it just seems to be, don't hurt me here, but it seems to be the American way in some cases. I just said that out loud. Sorry if I offended anyone.
No, great. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody.
I'm sorry I said that. But it seems to be, for a lot of things, and I'm guilty of this too, is what's the easiest way to get this done and the fastest way? And that tends to be the way that's picked in a lot of cases. I do the same thing quite often. But when we're talking soil and what we're growing stuff in and long-term wise, that's not the best idea.
Right. That's why I'm pretty fortunate. Being in the community around here, there's a lot of other organizations that it's their job, not their job, but they just go out of their way to basically educate people on things just like this, about soil, about clean water, and about, sustainable growing methods. So, yeah, we have a lot of those people here that are actually taking that next step, not just doing it themselves, but are making sure that the people in the community and the next generation kind of get that lesson.
Now, is there a certain age group of these people that you are seeing come out and volunteer and helping, or is it all over the spectrum?
It is all ages. I know that the lettuce people are a group here in town. They are super cool. They do hydroponic videos. You can probably check them out on YouTube. And they also, as a side project, they do classroom instruction or hydroponic instruction for K through 12. So that takes care of all of your youth. And then we see some of those youth out in, the several community gardens around town. But at the same point in time, you also see, your gray hairs or your midlifers or just people of all ages are getting into this.
And that's great. And when you see this, I have a plot at the community garden, and you guys are working on these community garden areas and vertical gardening, and you'll see the person come in with the little kid, and they're sleeping in their car seat, and you'll see the teenagers come in and the older people, and all of a sudden it's like the whole members and spectrums of the community all at the community garden interacting with each other.
Yeah, it's really something to see. Everybody has something that they can do. Some kids like to play in the dirt. Some kids like to pull weeds. Some adults like to lay down compost. But, it's really interesting to see people from all ages come together and just, be cool in that one area.
So I've sidetracked. One of your goals is clean water and clean soil. What are some of the other activities or goals for Youngstown, for the project?
Well, I think the main theory, if I could sum up anything behind Youngstown, would be to revitalize. They want to turn these areas that are kind of eyesores or kind of, a drain to the community. They want to turn them into something better, something functional. So I think that is probably the main gist that I could describe, trying not to speak for anybody else. But we do have other organizations in the area that are focused on just raising pollinator crops. Trees Please is an example of that. And then we have people that do just revitalization gardening. So, yeah, I really couldn't speak for everybody else, but I think we all have similar goals. It's just we have different ways of going about achieving them.
And it's great that all of these organizations are working on something, because when you look at these projects, and even when you think about, I'm going to build a garden at a preschool. All right, we can do that. It takes this, this, and this. When you look at the big picture, there is no way that one organization could do every single aspect of just some of the things that you just said. Some are doing native trees. Some are doing just lawns being redone into not grass anymore. it's nice to have all of these different organizations out there because there's so much stuff that they're working on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like you said, there's no way one group could even get something of that scale accomplished. So to see a whole community come together and work towards the common goal, it's just super duper. And I really cannot wait to see it happen more and more in other communities.
Yes. And I hope I get to talk about more of them on A Girl in a Garden, because these are the kind of stories that I love to hear about. And I know a lot of our listeners love to hear about. Now, you guys are also up for, is it a grant?
Yes. Youngstown Food Forest recently submitted a proposal to Nature's Path. And for the next, I believe, 6 days, there's going to be open voting that people can go online. They can log in through their Facebook or just an email. They can vote daily. And to help support the Youngstown Food Forest, we need all the votes we can get. So the scope of the project, like we talked about earlier, is just providing free food to the community and doing it at a long-term level. That, we're not planting, a couple tomatoes or peppers every year, but we're actually planting a food forest that's just going to perpetually grow.
And when we talk about food forest, we're talking about things like adding peach trees or adding apple trees, adding food that's going to come back every single year or be a long-term investment. Yes, an apple tree is not going to produce apples the first year per se, just depending on what kind. But if you have it there for 30 years, think of how much food it's going to provide in that small area.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely focused on the long term here. We only had started with 50 trees, but we have another 50 trees coming in here this season, and that should be enough to get us up and rolling to where we have everything laid out on the area that we have to work with for this particular project.
So you're doing not you, but the organization, 100 trees in 2014 is the goal right now?
Yep, start 100 trees and then work with their perennial plants.
That is quite a bit of fruit trees. Now, do you know if any of them will be producing fruit this year, or this is probably in a few years?
I want to say we're still probably about 2 years off before we see any fruit production. We do have, I want to say, 8 varieties out there, so it's hard to tell. We might get 1 or 2 producers this year, but I'm thinking this is more of a futuristic goal that we're working towards.
Yeah, and a lot of gardeners don't always know when you buy a tree, especially some of these fruit trees. You buy them, they're already a few years old. You want to plant them. You want to put all kinds of great stuff so they have good root development and lots of water to be able to thrive. But they aren't going to produce fruit sometimes for like 2 or 3 years. So this is something that's going to provide shade. It's going to be pretty. It's going to eventually provide fruit. It's going to help clean your air. So there's many different aspects besides just getting that fruit right away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win on so many different levels.
Yes, and that's fantastic. So you guys are up for a grant. We're going to put this link on the Facebook for A Girl in a Garden. You'll also see this on the blog post. If you're listening to the show, the blog will be going up onto A Girl in a Garden by Wednesday with a link for the voting, because when does this vote end? Do you know?
I want to say July 11:59, July 6th.
All right, so this is going to be airing, obviously, on the 1st. So today is the 1st of July. You still have a few days out there to go and vote. You can vote once a day. I believe you have to leave your email address.
Yes, there is a sign-in. Yeah.
There's something so you can't cheat the system, but you still have time to leave your one vote a day. So they're up for a grant, and this is for a food forest, and this is in Youngstown, Ohio.
Yes, it's the Youngstown Free Food Forest Project.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So this is something great for the long term. I know we have one in Seattle already. I wish that I didn't have to say we have one and list like 1 or 2 places that have food forest.
Right.
In the future, I'd like to be able to say every single city has one of these already. Can we get this in one more? But we're starting small.
You got to start somewhere.
Growing, right?
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. I was fortunate I started here in Youngstown, so it's been pretty awesome for me.
And in 10 years, we'll be able to talk again and be like, all right, how many food forests do you know of? And we should be able to name off
Oh, golly.
I'm hoping at least 50.
Yeah.
Not just 2 or 3 right now.
Right.
So this is the momentum that's growing. Free food. It's the Youngstown Food Forest Project. Food Forest is something that's going to be here. It's going to be feeding our community, and there's always great things. I know another organization that it's another one you should always follow on the internet, I should say, on Facebook. It's, I think Free Food Forest. No, I'm sorry. It's Food Free. I'm not even going to say this right. It's
Food is free.
Food is free. Is that what it is?
I think so. I think that's one you're going for. If not, they can look it up. But
it is the Food is Free Project. That was really hard for me to get out. Food is Free Project. This is another organization that is doing some amazing work all over. I know it's all over the U.S. I'm hoping it's spreading to other places. But they are planting food, and they have signs that says, food is free, take from this bed, or this is take what you want, and putting out harvested food. And so there's so many projects on how to get this fresh food out to people. Goes back to the same thing with the 2014 garden pledge A Girl in a Garden is doing, is donate some of that extra produce, fruits and vegetables that you get from your garden to your local food bank. Many of them accept fresh fruits and vegetables. If you do not know one in your area, you can visit ampleharvest.org, and they'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Ooh.
So, crowd feeding. Good food spreads everywhere. We want to have fresh food available to all of our community members.
Yeah, it's free food. Just take it, grow it, and eat the food. It's no problem.
It's free, healthy food. It's good food.
Exactly. It's not going to hurt anybody.
And the fun thing about this is I get to make a bunch of turnips tonight.
Oh, super.
But I planted turnips because I had the seeds. And I had the room. Now, if you think of it, this is what's great about gardening and having these free food projects out there is I had to look it up. I don't know how to cook turnips. I don't know what I'm going to do with so many turnips. Oh, I found the best recipe. Now I'm going to make turnips. But getting some of these other fruits and vegetables out there makes people go and try these other fruits and vegetables and expand people's tastes as well, besides McDonald's and fast food junk that seems to be everywhere.
Right, that plastic food.
Yeah,
I hear you. I've got a recipe for a zucchini pie. It's better than any New York cheesecake I've ever had. It's ridiculous how good vegetables.
Zucchini pie.
I kid you not. It's a winner chicken dinner. I will email it or post it to your blog at some point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to share that one. Yesterday I did kale and seaweed salad, and it was amazing.
Okay.
It's just opening your mind, though, is kale. 10 years ago, I would have thought that was horrible. It is the best growing plants. It's fantastic.
It's super.
So, as I always seem to sidetrack because I'm talking about gardening, let me close this back up for all of our listeners. So I'm talking with Dray, and we are talking about the Youngstown Food Project, and it's for a grant that they're getting, and the grant is for who, Dray?
It is for the Youngstown Free Food Forest, and they are partnered up with the Youngstown Inner City Garden. We are not getting the grant. It's not guaranteed yet. That's why we need all the votes we can get. We are in the process of applying and trying to solicit love for the grant. But yeah, check it out. If anybody wants details, they can visit thepropagationstation.com, and it'll have a banner at the very top that you can click on that'll give you like a little 500-word essay on everything we've got going on in the Youngstown Food Forest Project.
Perfect. So we can all vote until the 6th of July. So we have a little bit more time to get our one vote in a day. And you can find more information on the blog. I'll be listing the propagation station along with a link to the grants. And I will probably put Dre's contact information down as well. I'm sure he'll be happy to share it. So if anyone who would like to get a hold of him, he is working on all kinds of fun projects in Ohio.
Feel free to get at me. We'll do some good work together.
He's good at networking, so definitely check him out if you're in the Ohio area and you're wanting to talk about gardening and greening stuff up, worm casting, xeroponic gardening, all kinds of stuff.
Certainly.
Yes, I have to say thank you very much for your time today, Dray.
Hey, thanks so much, Emily. It's always such a pleasure.
It's always great to have you on the show. Now, until next time, this is Emily with The Girl in the Garden on DFCRadio.com.